Chris Cuomo joins me now. I can't believe this one guy posted a selfie video on Instagram while he's on the run. You're about to speak to the aunt of one of the escapees.
Well, remember, it's not that he's just taunting. He's saying that he's innocent and that he didn't escape. He was let out. Now, that doesn't make any sense to me. I don't know that his aunt can shed light on this, but she does know something about the case that he's making. And look, a big reason that someone escapes and stays out is because they get help. Who is helping and how, I don't know, but the authorities are going to find out. It's only a matter of time, and there are going to be consequences.
Yeah, they are. That hunt is fast and furious, and as Chris Swecker said on our show, they'll catch him. It's just a matter of when, not if. All right, Chris, have a great show. See you tomorrow.
All right, Chris Cuomo here. Welcome to NewsNation, where right and left come to be reasonable. You see the Democrats' latest move? They put a taco truck outside the RNC headquarters. They gave out free tacos as a play on the latest zinger about tariffs. TACO is an acronym, stands for Trump always chickens out on his tariff threats. The DNC chair had explained that Trump's tariff policies hurt everyday Americans, hurt small businesses. Trump always chickens out. We're just bringing the tacos to match. Here's what I don't get. Two things. One, if you think the tariffs are a mistake, why would you taunt to have them enforced, right? Isn't the point that he chickens out, meaning that he backs off? Do you actually want him to enforce the sky-high tariffs if you don't like them? It doesn't really make sense, but the point isn't to make sense. The point isn't to be productive. The point is to be pejorative. That's the game. Just a gotcha of one side versus the other. Opposition is all that matters. But there is a reason I would submit to you that the hate parade isn't drawing the crowd that the Democrats want. People want better. And the good news for them and for all of us is that there's a lot of opportunity for us to be better. Trump and this administration have struggled to create positive change thus far. They're fighting the right fights. In many instances, the economic realities of the many instead of just the top few, keeping people safe from what and who wants to destroy America and its families. Criticism has its place, and there is plenty to work with. I'm not saying otherwise. You can say tariffs were overdone. They did cause short-term pain, maybe midterm pain. We'll see. But if you want to ask whether or not there's a risk, just ask small business owners. You can say that the budget bill adds to the deficit and still does too much for the top. Just ask real conservatives. That's what they're saying. Heck, even Trump's bestie says as much. Elon Musk, massive, outrageous, pork-filled congressional spending bill that is a disgusting abomination. That's what he says. And even this administration's strongest issue to this point, immigration, hasn't played out as many wanted. Securing the border is a win. Illegal crossings are down. That's good for the administration. It's good for the country. But deportations have proven to be a wedge issue, as I suggested they would. Why? Rounding up bad hombres? No brainer. Everybody's in favor of that. Now, if they were to say our focus here is we're looking for extreme Islamists, other terror activity, organized crime like cartels, which we consider a terrorist organization, they'd have even better traction on the issue. But ICE is too often going after the wrong people in the wrong places and doing it the wrong way. Now, that is all fair criticism, but is criticism enough? No. Not if you want the power to change things. I submit to you that stunts like this taco truck leave voters hungry for something more on the menu. And the polls say the same. 63% of us oppose the tariffs to this point. Remember, it's going to be about the deals. If he can't make things better, the tariffs are going to be a negative for him. But what do Americans also say? The GOP is the party with a better economic plan by a wide margin and growing. How do we know? Last year, the GOP had a 9-point lead on Democrats on which party has a better economic plan. Today, they have a 12-point advantage over the Democrats, despite all the confusion and pain that Trump's tariffs and his tactics have caused. Why? Because at least he's trying something, as opposed to just saying everything sucks. And remember, unlike the hype surrounding many culture issues, the pain is real, so people are desperate for you to do something in a position of power. 60% of us don't have enough saved for an unexpected emergency that costs $1,000. Think about that. $1,000 away from being desperate. We're too often surviving on credit with a high VIG, 10, 12, 15% or more. Insurance for your home, up. For your health, up. For your car, up. Pay is not keeping up with pricing. A starter home costs $1 million in over 200 of the biggest U.S. cities. College tuition has more than doubled in the last 20 years. A new car costs 60% more than it did a decade ago, and who knows what's going to happen with the tariffs. Credit card debt is so needed that it has tripled in the last 25 years. The middle class is getting pulled in two bad directions, okay? In the 1970s, 60% of us were in the middle class, okay? It was the bellwether of American fortitude. Today, only half are considered middle class. Why? Well, some became upper class, but most that are no longer in the middle class fell. And the gap between the rich and the struggling is bigger than ever. And this part here, the few, is growing very robustly. It's lopsided. That's why people are very interested in the president putting this on the table. What do we do to do more for the many? Now, you can argue about his solutions, but you got to have better ideas if you're going to go at his. So that's what we need, is a battle over solutions, not just salvos. And part of this problem is that people see inaction as a legitimate position, meaning opposition is enough. I'm going to stop you. And you know where we see that? The rescission bill that's coming. Look, it is overwhelmingly popular in this country to cut waste, fraud, and abuse. All right? If either side is seen like they don't want to do that with this rescission bill, it's going to look like they're just trying to stop progress. So I wanted to bring in two members of Congress, something we only do here on NewsNation. Right and left together to be reasonable. Republican member of Congress Ryan Zinke, Democratic member of Congress Adam Smith. Good to have you both. Hey, I have one quick question that is a sidebar, but it's about the budget bill that I don't understand, and I'm actually echoing Marjorie Taylor Greene, okay? Ryan, this is for you. I don't understand the states can't regulate AI for 10 years. Why would we want to centralize AI? Why would we want to take away states' ability to protect against what might happen in the scary unknown? I don't understand. I think she's right to ask about this.
Well, you know, it is a good question. And there's a lot in this bill that one would wonder about. But I think here's where it sits with most Americans, is that we have a spending problem in this bill. And we've been on the show before, and the bond market doesn't lie, Chris. And so when the bond market sees we can't control our spending, then interest rates go up, and interests are a tax. And remember we talked about the reconciliation, the beautiful bill, and must bring some very good points out, is that, look, you know, whatever we found in savings, and look, our $7 trillion budget, you don't think we can find $300 billion worth of savings during 10 years? Of course we can. Just get rid of the fraud, waste, and abuse. But whatever we find in savings, let's roll that over to help the taxes so America doesn't get a tax, hit in the face, but let's not go in debt doing it. And that's exactly what we're seeing in the bond market. It says, look, we can't further go into debt, and America is insolvent. Insolvency means we can't pay our bills without borrowing. Right. Now, we're not bankrupt, but look, just like Americans are charged up the credit card because they can't and we can't pay our bills monthly without putting it on the card. And America's putting the card, enough's enough. So I think in the bill there's some finer points. I think it's going to come out of the Senate different than what it came in.
Adam, what is your take on where Democrats are on the rescission bill and the willingness to make cuts?
Well, first of all, I take Ryan's point, but we're living in like some sort of, I don't know, fantasy bizarro world. He makes all of those points in favor of a bill that adds trillions of dollars to the debt and the deficit. I mean, it's insane.
Yeah, he doesn't like that.
But their entire argument is, oh, the deficit is terrible, it's horrible. And they're pushing a bill. Even by their ridiculous assumptions, they still admit that it adds $1.7 trillion to the debt. Most estimate that number is closer to $3 trillion. But even by their own estimate. So I'm just baffled that you can make an argument, oh my gosh, we have to do this because of the debt and the deficit. Now, there is an answer to this, and Ryan actually revealed that. Republicans think that revenue is irrelevant. Remind me never to put one of them in charge of a company that I care about, okay? Because the revenue coming in is kind of important to making the operation work. And they want to pretend that it doesn't matter. And I don't disagree on the spending side. But revenue matters, and there's a great statistic Joseph Stiglitz showed back prior to the Reagan tax cuts, which kicked this whole thing off. Roughly 32% of all income in America went to taxes on the state, federal, local level, all in. That number by 2019 was down to 28, and it's lower now. Look, revenue is part of the discussion that they simply don't want to pay any attention to. And again, they're adding to the debt. If you want to do something about the debt, you're better off doing nothing than you are in doing this bill.
But do you think Democrats? Well, hold on, Ryan. I'll come right back to you. But because also, Ryan's saying he doesn't like the spending in the bill. This is what Trump wanted. Trump is not a fiscal conservative. Okay, he believes in getting tax cuts because it's a political win, and he wants to spend. But do you think Democrats, Adam?
He's an effective panderer. No two ways about that.
But just saying that Trump is a panderer is also pandering if you don't have better ideas. So do Democrats have cuts to cut the debt?
Yeah, no, I think that's a very fair point. And it's something that we need to put on the table. And I will have to take a look at the rescissions bill. I'm not opposed to making cuts. I am absolutely opposed to making cuts so that we can cut taxes, and primarily tax cuts go to people who make more money because, you pay taxes when you make money. And as you pointed out in your charts, the concentration of wealth is a real problem. So we're going to be upstreaming all of this again. But you want to talk about cuts? Sure. But we shouldn't have any tax cuts in this bill, in my opinion.
All right. Well,
Ryan.
Adam, first of all, on revenue, you look at percentage of GDP over the last 30 years. It's not the revenue. It's been going up just about the same. Revenue in this country hasn't changed a lot. What has changed is the spending. That's why I said in appropriations, and 30 years ago, look at the discretionary spending was 30% or 70%. Today, mandatory spending, and that's the big three, Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, is 70% and blooming. So that's the problem if we're gonna cut. And the first cut should be fraud, waste, and abuse. And I agree with you. Look, I'm a huge Franklin, Roosevelt fan. And Teddy Roosevelt, the more you make, the more you should pay because you support the system that allowed you to make the money in the beginning. And even Benjamin Franklin said that the candle maker should not pay as much as the merchant. So I agree with the more you make, you should pay, but everyone should pay something. And again, we don't have a problem with revenue. We have a problem with our spending, and that's what we got to look at. And there are ways to do it. I do think that we should look at Medicaid. The president says hands off Medicaid. Okay, but look, the states have to be a partner in this. When the federal government pays up to 97% of Medicaid, you know what? It's a freebie. And no one's talking about cutting Medicaid for 18-year-olds or over 62. But look, if you're able-bodied and be able to work, you should work 80 hours a month, and that's a food pantry. We're not saying you have to work at construction job at $50 an hour. We're saying just work for what is given to you, and you know what? We'd all be better off. Work has purpose in life. I do agree with you, though, Adam, that, look, on the concentration of wealth, I think there's a problem in the country. When you have fewer people making more and more and more, there has to be an incentive. We're not a socialist country. There has to be an incentive to make money. You can't be Sweden where all of a sudden they're going to take everything. But so disposable income, as you rightly point out, is important because a lot of people don't have the disposable income because they're just going from month to month to month, putting on a credit card. I get that.
Go ahead, Adam.
Yeah, I mean, I disagree with the fact that revenue isn't part of the problem. As I said, if you look at the statistics, it's absolutely clearly part of the problem. And the other thing is there is an appetite in this country for that greater amount of spending. That's why you see people concerned about cuts to Medicaid and elsewhere. What we haven't done as leaders is tell people, look, if you really, really want something, you ought to be willing to pay for it. I mean, that's the argument we got to have. Instead, we come up with all these ways to deficit spend everything. I think we got to get that back in alignment. I will not disagree with that.
And
So
I
what do you
would
think
agree.
happens?
Article 1, Section 9 of the Constitution says no money should be removed from the Treasury unless by consequence of appropriations. We should appropriate everything. There shouldn't be one dime of mandatory spending that goes on auto. Congress should do their job and appropriate money and make these calls where we spend our money and where we don't. I absolutely agree with you.
Adam, do you think that you said you're open to the rescission bills. Do you think the Democrats will do that, or do you think that they'll just use it as a point of opposition?
I doubt it. But look, I mean, what Trump is doing with the budget overall, the way he's violating exactly what Ryan just laid out, that Congress should control spending. We control spending, and Trump has come along and he's slashed, cut, destroyed programs completely in violation of the law. So for us to empower the president to do that, these rescissions bills have been long waiting, and they're not going to include everything that he has already cut. I mean, he shut down foreign aid. He's shutting down firing people, shutting down programs all across the country that Congress already approved. So part of the problem here is a president who doesn't adhere to the law that Ryan just laid out.
But that's for the courts and for you guys to legislate through. I'm just saying, Adam, will you guys be open to the rescission bill and the cuts that are made in there? What I'm hearing you say is, no, we're going to use inaction on this rescission bill to punish him for other things that he did.
Well, I mean, not to punish him. This isn't about him. This is about the country, to try to stop him from doing things that we believe harm people in this country. We're not, I mean, Trump's individual personality isn't really the focus here. The focus is the people who are being harmed right now by his violation of the law.
Good.
Well,
Look,
and I would say when it comes to
go ahead,
I
Ryan,
would say
last word.
USAID. It wasn't the intention of Congress to fund the things that we were funding on USAID.
Yeah, but it was the intention of Congress to fund something.
I don't remember saying, you know what, we're going to fund transgender clinics in India.
Okay, so
you're looking at fraud, waste, and abuse.
That's about 1%.
Come on, you can't with a straight face say, hey, USAID didn't have any problems. Come on.
Listen,
Come on. When aid is against foreign policy, no.
But hold on. You guys are both making your
programs. He wants to eliminate those couple of programs. Great. You're that's not what he did.
Marco Rubio said the same thing. Rubio said the same thing. But you know what? And look, what does Trump do? You say it's not about his personality. I wish that were right, Adam, but it isn't. This is how Trump works. But I'm saying you gotta play the cards, right? And what's the big face card right now? The presidency. And here's what he does. Oh, you don't want me to do this? Well, then I'm doing it times 10. That's what happened. There are parts of USAID that obviously deserve scrutiny. The good news is this: the president doesn't control the purse strings. You do. And if you guys want to have a rational discussion about what parts of USAID should stay and go, you can do that because you appropriate the money. You can undo what he did because he doesn't have the power to do it.
Sure. Well, he did it. So clearly, he has the power
we're going to see the recensions.
And the
we're going to see the recensions do this, that.
He
did it with his mouth. He did it with his mouth. He can't make it happen unless you guys go with it in the rescission bill. I got to jump, but we'll keep talking about this.
Great. I'll see you on the floor tomorrow, Adam.
Thank you.
Look, I look forward to it because it's up to you guys. He can say whatever he wants. The only thing that happens with the purse strings is what you guys decide. Nothing stays or goes just because he says so. It's whether or not you codify.
It hasn't played out that way. Literally, right?
But it's not done yet.
Well,
That's what the rescission bill is. That's what
we'll
the
see,
rescission bill
because
is.
Congress is going to have a say in rescissions, and we're all going to vote on it, whether those rescissions stick or not. Absolutely.
And I'll be here for it, and you guys are welcome to talk about it until the end. Ryan Zinke, thank you. Adam Smith, thank you. And again, I say this every time, but I mean it. The audience thanks me for nothing the way it does having both there at the same time. It is the best appraisal of who is being authentic to you that you can get. And we're happy to bring it to you. 4 minutes and 35 seconds. So, the wife and 5 kids of the man accused of firebombing a pro-Israel rally in Boulder, Colorado. Now, I'm saying accused because I'm being nice, right? That's the way we're supposed to do it. He did it. You see the pictures, he did it, okay? Why were they taken into custody by ICE? Because of what the Secretary of State said. If you are connected to somebody who believes in these kinds of things, we're going after you. So we're going to go live to the scene with the latest and whether this is legal. We're going to take a deeper dive on whether this guy acted alone or is proof of a growing threat. Okay, the wife and 5 children of the Egyptian migrant charged with firebombing a pro-Israel rally in Boulder, Colorado, are in ICE custody tonight. Why? Well, the DHS secretary announced the government is investigating whether the family of this terrorist had any knowledge in advance of the attack, which injured a dozen people, several seriously. Well, if they're investigating while they are already in custody, well, because ICE has the ability to take people who are not citizens. Due process is real, but it is not the same for everybody. The White House added later on social media that all 6 could soon be deported, perhaps as soon as tonight. Is that right? Do they have the right? 2 different questions. We'll look at them both. NewsNation's Nancy Liu is following the case, joins us tonight from Boulder, Colorado. Nancy, what's the latest, and thank you.
Of course, Chris. You mentioned that family in custody, a wife and 5 kids. That is 2 teenagers and 3 younger children. And yes, all of them could be deported as soon as tonight, according to the White House. Now, Solomon had told investigators that he purposely waited for the graduation of his daughter before carrying out the attack, which has 2 people still hospitalized for burn injuries. Well, NewsNation has learned some new information about that daughter. She's Habiba Solomon, who graduated from a high school in Colorado Springs just last week. And she was recently featured in the Denver Gazette about its best and brightest scholarship winners in 2025. In that article, she said she wanted to study medicine. The Solomon family had been living in an apartment complex in Colorado Springs. This is where Habiba attended the Thomas McLaren School. The family moved to the U.S. from Kuwait, but their time could be very short here now. The White House promising today on social media, quote, that 6 one-way tickets could be coming soon for the family. As for Mohammed Solomon, he will have to stay here behind bars for now. He is due back in court here in Boulder on Thursday. Chris?
Nancy, appreciate it. All right, so let's talk about these 2 issues, all right? What the law is and what the right policy is here, okay? We have Aaron Cohen, who's a former Israeli Special Forces agent, and he's a terror analyst. Very helpful. He is developing software to help people detect what's happening online, because that's where fundamentalism is spreading most quickly. And Ahmed Fouad Al-Khatib. Okay, I want to bring him in, American writer, analyst from Gaza. It's good to have you, Ahmed. Thank you very much for joining me again. All right, so we got the law, and then we've got the policy. I start with you, Ahmed. Does the United States have the right to take a family? We know that the suspect overstayed his visa, so he is not legally in the country. Do they have the legal right to do what they're doing?
Well, let me start by just expressing my sympathies to the victims and sending them well wishes for a speedy recovery. and expressing outrage for this heinous crime by this individual, as I have on repeated occasions. I think, unfortunately, this may be a case of a rushed and a reactive response to kind of give the impression that we're doing something about these radical elements within our society. I very much so believe that the United States, especially toward non-citizens, ultimately has the legal discretion to decide who gets to stay and who gets to leave. And I want to be open and transparent myself. I first came to the United States on an F1 student visa, and then I ultimately applied for and received political asylum. The very day of my asylum interview was when Hamas took over the Gaza Strip, but that's a separate matter. My point is, I wonder if there's a rush to get this family out, and in so doing, there might be just kind of a lack of empathy for the ordeal that they're going through, assuming that they had no foreknowledge or prior knowledge of what this man was about to do.
Well, that's the question.
And B, that their life is going to be turned upside down. They haven't been in Egypt, it sounds like, for many years. Kuwait isn't going to take them back. They're going back likely to Egypt, which is likely their passport of origin. And they probably have no remaining roots there. Maybe they have some family members there. So most importantly, I want to say that there might be a missed opportunity to gather intelligence and to understand the picture around this man's life and the community, and to really get where did he go wrong? How did the radicalization happen? So I worry that this may be a legal decision, but a very rushed one and a potentially inhumane one.
So, Aaron, I mean, look, you can't have it both ways. If you're able to develop intelligence from this people, it means that they knew things about his radicalization. And to me, he seems very familiar, not just because he overstayed his visa, but this is your typical lone wolf, radicalized by proxy. And he's been thinking about how to do this for a long time and came up with his own stupid way, not an official group behind him, but he loves the Muslim Brotherhood. I mean, isn't this guy exactly who we're worried about?
Chris, you nailed a couple of key ones. Good to see you again. Here's where I'm at with this. Deportation isn't punishment. It's deterrence. That's how we frame this in counterterrorism. And what's happening with Soleiman's family, this isn't revenge what the United States is doing, what DHS is doing. This isn't some like political theater. This is deterrence. And this is how a country reasserts control, Chris, after letting the enemy walk in through the front door, which is now the internet, the algorithm, as you mentioned. So this guy threw Molotov cocktails at a pro-Israel rally, peaceful in Boulder. Wasn't a protest. This is attempted mass murder, Chris. That's terrorism. And if the family around him lied on their visas, knew about this, looked the other way, or had anything to do with helping to radicalize him, they're gone. Plain and simple. And we've spent years, Chris, tiptoeing around this ideology, too scared to act, that the fears made us vulnerable. But the next wave, and you know this because you've said this, of terrorism isn't going to look like 9/11. Lone actors, like you said, radicalized online, America's enemies hijacking that algorithm, hiding in plain sight, fifth-generation warfare. It's ideological, it's digital, it's psychological, and we're still pretending like it's a criminal issue. And removing this family sends a message. You lie, you radicalize, you support terror, you're gone. And this is how you prevent the next attack. This is the language of the Middle East and of these supporters. It's the only way to handle this, in my opinion. Gone.
All right, so let's see what they find out. We know what the problem is. We have to stay on it. And frankly, I see both of you as functions of the solution. Ahmet, you understand your community, you understand the law, you understand the good and the bad, and you articulate it really well. And Aaron, on the forensic side, you just understand how these cases are made and how they're going to keep coming. So I thank you both. Let's see what we find out, and we'll continue the conversation. Appreciate you both. To be continued, okay? 4 minutes and 30 seconds coming up. It's been nearly 3 weeks since the biggest escape I've ever heard of from a jail. 10 people all at once. Now, 2 of them are still at large, okay? You could argue the 2 most dangerous, but one of them is saying, I didn't escape. I was let out. By the way, I'm innocent and can prove it. And by the way, I'm on the internet, but they can't find him. This man's aunt wants to come on to tell you what she knows about him and about the situation. It's been 18 days since we saw like the biggest escape from jail I've ever seen. 10 inmates from this Nolans facility in the middle of the night. 8 of them have been caught. 2 are still on the loose. There's a $50,000 reward. There's local, state, federal officials going on. Derek Groves is one of the men, convicted of murdering 2 people, attempting to murder 2 others. The other is Antoine Massey. Now, he's become a little bit more of an intriguing subject. He is charged with assault, strangulation, car theft, and possession of illegal weapons. This is his 5th jailbreak, dating back to 2007. Massey has actually been using Instagram while on the run to proclaim his innocence and even asked Trump for help. Take a look at this.
I'm one of the ones that was let out on News Parish jail where they said I escaped, right? I'm not a raper, man. I'm not none of that. None of that. I'm a good person. I am a father that want to be in my children's life. I'm asking for help from the world, from Meat Mills, Lil Wayne, Young Boy, Donald Trump. I'm asking for these people. I couldn't even get a lawyer. I'm asking for help, please, before they throw me away for something that I did not do.
The rappers he mentioned were all pardoned by President Trump. Now, I'm going to bring in law enforcement to talk about why this guy can be on Instagram, but he can't be in custody. Like, why is this? But I want to talk to a family member first to kind of understand what we should think about this guy, okay? His aunt, Shakita Taylor, joins me now. Thank you very much for taking this opportunity.
You're more than welcome anytime. I will do anything to help right now.
So thank you. And in terms of that, just to ask what you know I have to ask, have you been forthcoming with authorities about what you know about where your nephew is or who might be helping him?
Yes, I had some officers actually meet me today here at my home, asking me a few questions because they seen some of my videos that I had recently put out, especially the last one where I told Antoine, myself that I saw the video and for him to turn himself in. So I guess the authorities here in Atlanta picked up on that video and wanted to come here and ask me a few questions. And I was very cooperative with them. Yes.
So my understanding is that you have a son who's in that same jail. What does he make of how this was pulled off and his cousin's suggestion that he was let out, that he didn't escape?
Well, as far as my son and Antoine was on 2 different separate tiers, and I thank God they didn't run into each other. But for stories that I get from my son pertaining to this is very low key in there with the information as of now, because now they are having the right authorities walking and monitoring the prison as they should have before. But what he does touch in on is how they don't have the proper water to bathe with, how they eat every other day pretty much, and he's always on me to make sure that I have enough money in his commissary so that he have enough food for when they ever decide to feed them again, and also about how things just go up in there that shouldn't be going. You know what I'm saying? Like for us hot water, you can't flush the toilet. It smells very vulgar in there, so they have to leave the doors open because the humidity and the smell is just unbearing. Yes.
Tell us about your nephew. What should we make of his suggestion that he didn't do any of these things that he's accused of? Now, one interesting fact, you know this already, but for the audience, so his ex who accused him of the things that have him in jail or had him in jail is also supposedly involved in helping him right now. So it's very confusing. She's the one who accused him of doing these things that got him put in jail. He says he didn't do it. And our understanding is that now she may have aided him in his escape. What should we know about this?
Well, let me just say this about the young lady. And, I would not want to mention her name for the sake of her own privacy, and whatever you guys know, y'all know. But far as Antoine and his ex prior girlfriend, uh, she's a very toxic woman herself. She was much younger than Antoine, okay? Yes, I can say for myself that Antoine did take advantage of a situation because she was much older, but she was of age, okay? But the young lady herself, she does have mental illnesses herself, and I do pray she get the help that she needs. But when two toxic people come together, that's a disaster within itself, okay? Now, far as him and her getting into altercations, yes, that is true. But the far-fetchedness of these altercations, yes, it is a lie. Far as him raping her and beating her with a pot, pulling her hair out and stuff till she bleed, no, all those things are false allegations, because this is what the young lady does. They get into it, they fight, she send him to jail, she binds him out. He get out, they fight, she send him to jail, they bind him, she binds him out. And now, go figure, allegedly, she done helped him in his escape. So you put two and two together. Yes.
Are you worried about how this ends for your nephew? Because, he was in there for one set of crimes, but now being a fugitive is something else. And when the authorities come upon him, you know how quickly things can escalate. What is your concern?
Well, our concern is, of course, for his safety, for him to turn himself in, and we can do this the proper way. We're not giving Antoine any type of excuses for whatever it is that he done himself and to himself to land him in here. But as of now, we just want to soften the hearts of the authorities so that he have a safe return back to prison so we can conduct this the right way. I have some very powerful people that is standing up for Antoine, some big people that, have wonderful community leadership and things like that, and also have dealt with some big names in the courtrooms. But we just want Antoine to trust us as his family, to know that we love him and have his best interests at heart so we can get him home safe. That's all we're looking for, is a safe return. And we was very pleased to see the video, because at least now the family can rest to know that he is alive. Yes.
Shakita, I got to tell you, this is really heavy. This has got to be heartrending, and you're handling it in very sober and reasonable manner, and I respect it. And we are here to help. If we can help get information out, you know how to reach us. And I appreciate you doing this interview. I know that this is a bizarre thing to be living through, let alone on TV. But thank you for doing it with NewsNation.
You're more than welcome. You're more than welcome. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
All right. We'll be in touch, and we're a call away. You take care. Shakita Taylor. Bizarre, right? Very clear-headed about something that's got to be so emotional as well, right? All right, so how can you go online and they can't find you? Especially when they know who's been helping you and you have one or more of them in custody. The manhunt, next. So one of the guys who escaped from this New Orleans jail is posting on social media, but they can't catch him. The guy's escaped 5 times. He says this time he was let go. Let's bring in digital forensics analyst Heather Barnhart and former FBI special agent, NewsNation law and justice contributor Jennifer Coffin-Daffer. Let me ask you first, Heather, if you are on Instagram, how easy does that make it to find you?
Well, it depends if you tag your location or not. So there's so many moving pieces. There's not just one digital device that can tell us the truth here. So we're relying on a video and the user opting in to tagging their location.
They got the girlfriend, ex-girlfriend, whatever, accuser, whatever you want to call her, all in one. And they've got the sister. Jennifer, that's a pretty close circle of people who've been assisting him. That's got to be helpful to authorities, right?
Yeah, it's always this way. They're going to be comfortable seeking help from people they know and love, close family and loved ones. And that's why I think they really need to focus on Texas here. His mother of his baby lives in Texas. The reward is up to $50,000 now. We have this brand new breadcrumb. And what this tells me, and I've never seen a fugitive go social media, is he's desperate. And I think he might turn himself in.
He's escaped 5 times. I got to tell you, he's doing something right. I mean, you see a guy with chess pieces on his face, but I guess he's got a little bit of a strategy sense to him, other than just his tattoos, because he's staying ahead of them.
Yeah, it's interesting, Chris, right? He's saying that they let him out. It's sort of like somebody who leaves their car unlocked as if they're inviting somebody to steal their car. No, they're not inviting that. I mean, he was part of this and he escaped.
Heather, I thought it was his aunt was really impressive to me, how she was handling this and what they want for him. The authorities, when they're looking at the social media, how does that help them? Let's say, of course, he doesn't tag his location, okay? So unless he tags his location, is that just a dead end and it's just a taunt of them more than it is anything else?
It is a little taunting, but if you think about it, look at the video. You can see things in the background, and that's where open source intelligence really comes into play. And you could try to pinpoint things that you see in the background, the fact that there's a tile floor, what looks to be all over the house. So a warm location, possibly Texas or Louisiana. So just putting those pieces together can assist, but criminals are getting smarter and they are fast on their game and they are preparing to prevent digital traces, which makes it even harder for us.
Now, the other guy who's escaped, he's got homicides in his jacket. This guy doesn't, as far as we know. And of course, the concern, and you heard it from his aunt, is he says he didn't do this. The woman who accused him is now one of the people helping him escape. So it's complicated. But when they're coming at you for being a fugitive, using deadly force is not a huge legal stretch. So depending on the circumstances, let's hope this ends in a way where we can find out the truth. Jennifer Coffindaffer, thank you very much. Heather Barnard, this is a crazy one. It's good to have you on it with us. Thank you. We'll be right back. It's so interesting how people hear what they want to hear. My monologue tonight is that there's a lot of opportunity because we actually have really salient issues to the majority of this country on the table right now. How do you help the many and not just the few? What do you do about the major threats to our security in this country? And we're obviously desperate for answers. And yet it was interpreted as either if you're on one side, all you hear is that I'm somehow supporting the other. That's the problem. If you can't see anything past your opposition to the other side, you're not going to get anywhere. Leland Vittert joins us right now. And this is a very big show for him. This is the last time I ever talked to you.
Yeah, there's nothing here yet.
With a clean hand. The heaviest piece of metal in the world is about to be on your hand, my friend.
You got any advice for me, Cuomo?
Do the work. Do the work. Marriage is work. Do the work.
Well, I think that is very sound advice in anything that we do, right?
25 years, brother.
Yeah.
I am the ghost of Christmas future. I used to look like you, full of hope, promise, hair for days.
Thank you for holding down. This is what, a couple of
mortgages, 3 kids in 25 years, brother. Welcome to the future. Thank you for watching. Subscribe below and download our NewsNation app right now on your phone, and you will get fact-based, unbiased news for all Americans.